A man will appear in court on Friday accused of killing his wife and newborn baby girl. Matthew Cox, 31 years of age, has spent the night in a Brisbane police cell charged with 2 counts of domestic violence murder. The bodies of his wife, Taylor Cox, 30 years of age, and their newborn daughter, her name Murphy Margaret, 11 weeks old, were discovered by police 635 kilometres away in their Rockhampton home on Thursday morning during a welfare check. Police said that there was no previous history of domestic violence between the couple, as Taylor Cox's heartbroken parents broke their silence about the tragedy. So here's a quote from Taylor Cox's parents. "We have lost a beautiful daughter-in-law, Taylor, but also our much-loved granddaughter, Murphy. At this stage, we have very few details and are in an absolute state of shock. We ask that the media respect our privacy whilst we grieve and try and process what has occurred." So, of course, full condolences to all of the family and friends of the victims. Taylor Cox, 30 years old, the mother, to newborn baby Murphy Margaret, only 11 weeks old, shot and killed, believed to be by the father, the husband, Matthew Cox, 31 years old, who's currently being held in a Brisbane police cell facing 2 counts of domestic violence murder. Initial investigations indicate that Taylor and her baby girl died on Tuesday afternoon. They were both found with lacerations on their bodies. We're told that the father, Matthew Cox, handed himself into police 2 days after the tragic incident. Of course, the investigation is still ongoing. 2 crime scenes have been established where the murders took place, and an apartment complex in which the scumbag father stayed for, I believe, 2 days after the event. His car has been taken away for forensic examination. We're told that the husband and wife had been in a relationship for approaching 8 years. They'd moved into the area, Rockhampton, less than a year ago, November 2022. So they were starting a new life. They had an 11-week-old baby girl, her name Murphy. We see the photos and it looks like, on appearances, it looks like they are a happy couple. So we've got to ask, what the heck happened? Why did this father shoot and kill his wife, Taylor Cox, and their baby daughter, Murphy Margaret, 11 weeks old? No history of domestic violence that we know of. We're not told how they died, how they were murdered. We're told that there were lacerations on both of the victims' bodies. I guess, could be wrong, but I guess that indicates that they were stabbed multiple times. We're told that there was a large amount of blood at the scene. So it's an absolutely terrible situation. I'm going to say the blessing here is that the father has handed himself into police. Well, we're not told that he's admitted guilt, but I would imagine that he has. Again, that's just guesswork on my part. What would have led to this to happen? I mean, I would have to say, I'm going to use the word obviously, this is a case of mental illness. I would think that the father snapped for this reason, that reason. Doesn't really matter what the reason was. He was angry. He allowed himself to become rageful. He allowed himself to become murderous. He lost all self-control to the extent that he was able to take the life of his own wife, and I'm going to say more shockingly, the life of his 11-week-old baby girl. What could drive a human to do that, to murder their own baby, an 11-week-old? Like, how can you actually go ahead with that, proceed with that? How can you not be stopped by something within you? Even if you were to go so far as to have the urge to act, like, how could you actually go through with it? I've got to say, mental illness. It's got to have been a psychotic episode, and tragically, we read a lot of articles like this. Not so many coming from Australia, very few indeed coming from Australia, I think it's fair to say. But every week, there's 1, 2 or more tragedies like this where often a parent, I'm thinking of a few cases where it has been the father, has all of a sudden, somewhat unprovoked, or, you know, what I mean by that is they've been living a seemingly happy, normal life, non-violent life, and then something snaps. We have that man, I believe in Ohio, if I recall correctly, who shot and killed, execution style, his 3 sons, young boys, attempted to kill his daughter. She ran away. Thankfully, she survived unharmed. Of course, she's going to suffer tremendous mental trauma. He shot his wife. She was struck in the hand. I mean, that's something to be thankful of, but her life has been ripped apart. Thankful that she wasn't injured more severely. And it's believed that that father, again, I think it was Ohio, he snapped. That's the term that we're going with. What does that mean? What does it mean when you snap? I guess we all have some kind of general understanding of what that means, because we all experience that, perhaps. At some point, we all snap in anger. We explode. We react more than we ought to have. But that's not going to result in violence for most of us. Most of us, it's going to be a few few shouty words. For some, it will result in violence. For some, it's going to involve extreme violence, and perhaps it's a blessing that relatively occasionally it results in these absolute tragedies. It doesn't happen that often, or does it? You know, I mean, we are seeing these cases a few times a week. So it's more often than we would like. I'm going to wrap things up at this point. I'm not sure if I've done a good job in covering this particular article. It's a tragedy. Again, full condolences to the family and friends of the two victims. So that's Taylor Cox, 30 years of age, and her 11-week-old baby daughter, Murphy, both believed to be killed by the father, by the husband, who has subsequently handed himself in to Brisbane police. So, of course, let's hope the investigation continues. Let's hope that at some point this scumbag gets what he deserves, which is no less than life in jail. And that's even if he was shown to be suffering from a psychotic episode. I do feel somewhat of a hypocrite at times. I've covered the article earlier in regards to Dr. Crystal Cascata in New York killing her child and then taking her own life. I feel some level of empathy for her due to the suggestion that she had postpartum depression or postpartum psychosis, but I'm less inclined to be empathetic towards this scumbag, Matthew Cox. Less inclined. Why is that? I don't know. I feel a little bit hypocritical, but those are my thoughts, even if they're not fully consistent. So I'm going to wrap things up. If you appreciate the coverage, please do like, comment, subscribe, share the video as you see fit.